A full moon over Ravenswood. The full moon shone bright in the sky, illuminating the small town of Ravenswood. John had always felt a strange pull towards the moon, but tonight it was stronger than ever. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. John had just finished his shift at the local factory and was on his way home. But before he knew it, his feet were taking him to the edge of town, toward the dense forest that surrounded Ravenswood. He couldn't explain why, but he felt compelled to enter the woods. As he walked deeper into the forest, he felt a strange sensation in his body. It was as if something was stirring inside of him, something primal and wild. He could feel his senses becoming sharper, his hearing and sight becoming keener. He could smell the scent of the forest. He could feel the coolness of the night air on his skin. And then it happened. John felt a searing pain in his limbs, as if they were breaking and reforming. He fell to the ground, screaming in agony, and his body contorted and twisted. He could feel his bones growing and shifting, his muscles stretching and bulging. And when the transformation was complete, John stood up on all fours, looking down at his new body in shock. He had become a werewolf. John's mind was a turmoil of emotions. He felt a mix of fear and exhilaration as he realized the power that he now possessed. He could feel the strength and speed coursing through his veins, and he knew that he could take down any animal in the forest. He let out a howl, and his pack answered back. He had never felt such a sense of belonging, of being part of something greater than himself. He ran through the forest, chasing after his pack, feeling free and alive. But as the night went on, John began to feel a sense of unease. He realized that he would have to return to his human form eventually, and he didn't know how or if he would ever be able to change back. He had also killed a man during his time as a werewolf, and he couldn't shake off the guilt of taking a life. As the sun began to rise, John knew that it was time to return home. He could feel his body changing back to his human form, the pain just as intense as it had been before. He lay on the ground, gasping for air as he struggled to adjust to his new reality. He had become a monster, and he didn't know how to deal with it. John returned home, but he could not shake off the feeling of being different. He had changed, and he could never go back to the way things were. He knew that he would have to control his transformation and keep it a secret from the world, but the guilt and the fear of being discovered haunted him. He was a werewolf, and he knew that he would never be able to outrun his curse. He tried to keep a low profile, but the urge to transform was always there, gnawing at him. He couldn't help but feel the pull of the full moon, and soon he found himself giving in to it more and more often. He was unable to hold down a job, and his relationships with friends and family became strained. John's fear and guilt turned into anger and resentment. He began to blame the people of Ravenswood for his predicament. He felt that they had trapped him in this curse, and he wanted revenge. As the full moon rose higher in the sky, John knew that he couldn't fight it anymore. He had to give in to the transformation. He felt the familiar pain as his body contorted and twisted, and he let out a roar as the change was complete. John ran through the city, reveling in the power that he now possessed. He killed anyone who crossed his path, reveling in the feeling of the power. But as the night went on, John began to feel a sense of unease. He knew that he couldn't keep this up forever. He knew that he had to stop before it was too late. He tried to fight the transformation, but it was too strong. He felt the familiar pain as his body contorted and twisted once again. The town of Ravenswood was in a state of panic as the bodies of John's victims were discovered. The police were baffled by the gruesome deaths and were unable to find any leads. But John knew that he was the one responsible. He had become a monster, and he knew he had to put an end to it before anyone else got hurt. John made the ultimate sacrifice and took his own life. He left behind a note confessing to his crimes and talked about the curse that had been bestowed upon him. The people of Ravenswood were left with more questions than answers, but they knew that the terror that had plagued their town had finally come to an end. John's legacy lived on, as stories of the werewolf of Ravenswood spread far and wide. Some saw him as a monster, while others saw him as a tragic figure, a victim of circumstance. But one thing was for sure: the curse of the werewolf would forever haunt the small town of Ravenswood, and those who lived there would never forget the terror that was unleashed on that fateful night.